Ohio high school football. It's a juggernaut each and every week. I'm going to take you on an inside look at the high school coaching world. In the world of high school coaching, there's far more than what people see after 7 p.m. on a Friday night. This is the Coach's Approach.
Welcome to the Coach's Approach, a podcast where we sit down with high school coaches and get the cold, hard facts about the high school coaching world. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk X's and O's. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk the X's and O's. Win the day or dominate the day. The choice is yours.
Hello to all of our listeners and viewers, and welcome to the Coach's Approach podcast. I'm your host, George Gresco. We have a great show ahead of us today, so let's go ahead and get started. Today in the coach's booth, we have Coach Buzz Edwards. Coach Edwards is the head football coach at Ashtabula Lakeside High School. Coach Edwards, welcome.
What's up, man? Good to see you again. Thanks for having me. I'm fired up. I got my coffee in me, and I'm all jacked up, man.
Send me a text, and you were stopping to get coffee before you got here. So that's
good. Watch out. I might get a little long-winded.
Hey, that's all right. That's good.
I'm excited, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. First thing I want to ask is, how did you get the nickname Buzz? That's gotta be the first question.
Well, my dad was William Bill, and his dad was William Bill, and my mom's brother was William Bill, and his first son,
a bunch of William Bills.
My cousin Bill was William Bill. So when we all got together, you said Bill, it was, 15 people come running.
So you sound like my dad saying Brett, Nick, George, Jason, Carol. Like, he'll say the dog's name sometimes. Yeah. So my dad was a welding foreman at the Caterpillar plant right here in Mentor. Okay. And his best friend was named Buzz, and he had passed away in a motorcycle accident. And my mom was like, let's just call him Buzz. And my dad was like, really? And she was like, yeah. So it's my mom. Thanks, Mom. Right. It's like it was her idea, and it's been like that ever since. I remember, people are like, well, what's your real name? I'm like, well, it's still William, but, for banks and all my important stuff, but no one calls me William. Right. I was saying, I didn't even know your name until I started looking you up, and I'm like, I've always known you as Buzz Edwards. That's just the way it's been.
Yep. I remember when I was at Immaculate Conception for kindergarten, the nuns would make me put William Buzz Edwards on my paper, and I had to put quotations around it. So my mom went in and had to sit down with sister, whatever her name was.
Too funny. And I also want to mention Coach Edwards is an Eastlake North alum. He graduated from North in 1999. It's always great to interview a fellow Ranger.
Rangers, man.
Always. We're gonna play a little trivia real quick.
All right. Yeah.
This is all stuff I didn't send you previously.
Okay.
So this is kind of a fun step for me. In the year 2020, there was 6 head football coaches that graduated from Eastlake North, 4 in football, 2 in basketball. Can you name them? I'll give you a hint. I was one at Cardinal. Yeah. You were at Lakeside. So there's 2 more football coaches and 2 more basketball coaches.
So Coach Dodd.
So you got Dodd. Right. Dodd is over at North.
Basketball coaches.
So there's 1 more football now and then 2 more basketball. 1
more football. Can you give me
no hints.
Can you give me a conference?
The WRC's one of the basketball ones.
Okay.
Which doesn't
help me at
all. Because this guy's got to be close to your graduating time.
Really?
I believe.
He
might be a little younger than you.
I don't know. I'm stumped, man. I'm trying to think back of who got into coaching from then, but I couldn't. Dodd is be the only one. And I watched his show a couple weeks ago. I watched you interview Dodd.
So Bob Mahalik at Aurora.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Uh-huh.
And then the 2 basketball is Matt Vespa. Mm-hmm. He's now the head coach at North.
Okay.
And then Anton Vrabik actually graduated at me. He was
Fairport.
Over at Fairport.
I tried to hire Anton for a couple of years out at Lakeside. It just didn't work out. So I'm glad he's doing well at Fairport. That's cool. Yeah, that's right. He played receiver for you, right?
Yeah, he was receiver. Yeah. He was an all-state punter, actually. He actually played at
Notre Dame,
Notre Dame College. And, man,
he's a good dude.
Boot the ball.
Yeah, those are all good guys except for me and you, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. North, go Rangers, right?
Yeah. So I thought that was a pretty cool stat. There were 6 head coaches at the high school level at that time, all North grads.
Yeah.
Which I don't think there's any other coaches like graduates from other schools like that. That's pretty crazy to hear, especially all in our area too.
Right. That's cool.
You're also a Mount Union alum.
As a player at Mount Union, you won 2 national championships
Right.
for the Purple Raiders. You won one in 2000 and then 2001, back-to-back natties.
Yeah.
Back-to-back, like that's incredible. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, the decision to go to Mount Union after playing at North and have an opportunity to play college football. You know, I went to John Carroll and Marietta and did the OAC tour, and I went to Ashland on a visit, and we had a Damian Stolowski. Stosh played, and he went to Kent State, and he was getting recruited to play linebacker Division I. So I kind of rode his coattails a little bit, but ended up going to Mount Union and loved it. You know, I wasn't a huge part of winning national championships for the varsity, but, you know, being a part of those teams, you know, your playing career doesn't always work out the way you draw it up, kind of as much like a football play, but the experience there, you know, guy like Nick Sirianni, you know, he was on that team. He's head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Matt Campbell and Tommy Manning and Matt Capone and Adam Endorf and Justin Todd. And there, you want to talk about, you know, the amount of head coaches at the from North in the area, you know, just the amount of head coaches that I played with at Mount Union and you know, Jason McElhaney, he's at Sharon in PA. There's a million of them.
It's about the relationships you build at that time too, and I'm sure you still talk to all these guys.
Alex Grinch is defensive coordinator, just took over at USC. He was at Ohio State 2 years ago. He was on that team, and just, you know, the culture, like, you know, the experience of winning a national championship, like, you know, we didn't really talk about we talked about it, but it was always about being your best and being great at practice and competing with each other. And that, like, it was almost expected, you know, you went to Mount Union and you were going to win and you were going to do things the right way.
That's still kind of how it is there today with the coaching changes. You go back to the Karras brothers, and it's still, they expect to win there. And that's cool. You get to that point, and it's like Kirtland. I always bring up Kirtland too, because you get to a certain point and you just want to win. It's win at all
costs. It becomes normal, right? And I was there for the first winning streak when to be on that team as a freshman, when they broke Oklahoma's winning streak of like 54 games in a row, and then was to be on the team for the second one. You know, we had lost one game, and then we started over and be at school when they did it again. But like, I've been really, really blessed and lucky to play for some really good, fantastic Hall of Fame coaches, and to play with some really great football minds. And I remember freshman year at Mount Union, mandatory study hall, you know, and Matt Campbell and Nick Sirianni and Mike Miller and a couple other guys are up on the board drawing plays up and arguing with, you know, and it's who's got the pen last. And, you know, I didn't even know what I wanted to do when I was 18 years old. I'm just sitting there like just watching, because, you know, I get on the sticks and play Madden and NCAA. I'm like, I run that all the time in NCAA, you know. So, you know, just the culture of football and coaching and greatness that comes through there. And there's something to be said, like a lot of coaches that come through Mount Union are successful, and it's because there's a certain way that you do things. And Coach Karras used to say all the time, you know, the locker room is a microcosm of your program. Like you don't just win championships on game day. Like, you have a championship locker room. The weight room looks like a champion works there. The locker room looks like your grades look like you're a winner. You know, you don't just win on Saturdays and Fridays.
Just walk out on the field and win.
Win all the time. And him and Coach Montgomery and Joel Cockley and Joe Lee, and, you know, I was blessed to play for some really good football coaches.
Good coaches. Now, getting into your coaching career, it's been a very interesting one to me. You grew up in Eastlake, Ohio, graduated from Eastlake North, as we already mentioned. You go to Mount Union for college. Then you pack your bags and head to Virginia. Mm-hmm. What made you say, Deuces, Ohio, I'm out of here, I'm headed to Virginia? What kind of happened there?
Well, I didn't want to. I mean, I did. I knew it was time to go. So my first job out of Mount Union, I was substitute teaching and working roofing and landscaping jobs when I could get them in Willoughby, Eastlake, and in Kirtland. I ran into Dan Kakura, another fantastic coach.
Todd brought him up last week too.
He was my head coach at North for my freshman and sophomore year. I ran into him at like Panini's in Willoughby, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "Come coach football," and I'm like, "Okay," you know. And I'd coached Powder Puff at Mount Union, and that was kind of fun. So I'm like, "All right." So
he was at Kirtland at the time, and I had an opportunity to coach middle school football at Kirtland, and we went 5-2. It was their first winning season in like 4 years. Me and Coach Ridgway there, who's still at Kirtland now. He was the head basketball coach there for a long time. I don't know if he still is. And Kakura had retired, and I remember going through the coaching change there. I sat down with Tiger and we interviewed. And one thing that I tell people all the time about Coach Laverde, and his brother was an All-American linebacker at Mount Union when I was there.
Oh,
Matt, Matt would transferred in from like Penn
cool.
State.
That's pretty cool. You end up coaching with his
yeah,
brother.
and his brother was head coach at Oil City in PA for a long time too. So
I mentioned that in one of the first shows is Kirtland was supposed to play at Oil City, but COVID kind of destroyed those plans. I was kind of looking forward to that game.
Yeah, it was that they were trying to tie that up, and they go there for a clinic or for like a 7-on-7 every year or whatever, Kirtland. But I sat down with Coach Laverde, and he was young, young at the time, and he was younger than I am now. And I've never heard a football coach use the word fun as much as he did. And he was high energy, and he was like, "We're gonna have so much fun, and this is what we do on defense. We're 3-3, and we're gonna bring 8. We're gonna play man. Yeah, we're gonna and then offense. They were at that time they were spread 4 or 5 wide, mirrored routes, running 4 verts and 5 verts out of And I'm like, this is cool. And he offered me a position on staff, but there was no teaching job attached.
Sure.
And I wasn't certified to teach at the time. So I started getting on AFCA.com, and it was before the Football Scoop, and it was 2005, 2004. So 2005. So I was looking online, and I must have sent out applications and resumes to 50 coaches on there. And I did some research, Virginia, Georgia, Florida, and it might've been Tennessee. You didn't have to have a teaching certificate to teach. They would give you a provisional license.
Okay.
So I ended up, it was like a 3-month process. Started like in January, February. And I was talking to these coaches and calling them on the phone. And finally, as luck would have it, or fate or destiny, whatever you want to say, I called Coach Mills at Dinwiddie County High School in Virginia. And I'm like, are you going to hire me or what? Like, I was to the point, like, and he's like, well, yeah, come on down this day for an interview. And I was like, okay. So I packed my truck up. I drove down to Virginia. I interviewed. As the story goes, being a Yankee, that's what they call Northerners, Yankees down there. Sure. In my interview, I might have cussed 1 or 2 times in front of the principal and stuff, but I said ass and shit or whatever. You can beep that out later. But as the story goes, I don't recall that, but I ended up getting the job. I got an alternate alt-ed position, like a GED, ISAEP, sure. Alternative standard, whatever, individual standard alternative educational plan. And I went down there and 2 weeks. I moved. It was 17 days. I interviewed. Wow. I moved down there. I came back. Turn. Yeah. And then, and it's happened a couple of times in my career, and the decisions that I made to move on. Like, I'm driving down to Virginia with with everything in my 98 F-150, and I'm riding down. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And you're doubting yourself. And I moved in a house with 3 guys, with 2 guys, and they were both successful head coaches as well. We were all 24 years old, and we went down there, and Coach Mills was my mentor and a great friend of mine, and a great guy to learn how to coach. And he's one of the most successful coaches in Virginia, and getting to work for him and live with those guys, it was very similar to Mount Union. It was, Jim Henderson, who's the head coach at Monacan, and Adam Fisher, who moved to Virginia from South Dakota. Right. We were all there. And, I'm not a real religious guy, but, everything happens for a reason. And sometimes God puts people in place. Absolutely. And it was just the perfect storm to learn and to coach. And I had a blast, man, especially that first go round, and we were very successful and learned a lot.
And that's what I'm getting into. So you wound up, correct me if I say this wrong, is it Dinwiddie? Dinwiddie High School in Virginia as an assistant coach, home of the Generals. Mm-hmm. You were a coach there on 2 separate occasions. Your first stint was 2006 to 2010. And your second stint at Dinwiddie was 2010 to 2017. You guys did some amazing things over that time. Over your time at Dinwiddie, the team's record was 82-28 over your 2 stints there. that's incredible to me. Just that record is crazy. Then you had 3 state finals appearance and 1 state championship.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that crazy run 2-time that you were there? I mean, that's a hell of a run, 82 and 28.
So what makes it even a little bit more special is in the year 2000, Dimity played for a state championship and lost. They went 1-49 in the next 5 years. And Coach Mills took over the year before I got there. And he had won game 10 his first year. So that was their only win.
Right.
Was the first win in 5 years. They had won his last game, his first year there. And then, he had got the go ahead from administration to bring some teachers in and some coaches and some youth and some young guys. And, we had a group of guys to work under Coach Mills. And then David Davis came in, who was Coach Mills's college roommate, and they played at Emory and Henry together. And he was like the missing piece. And first season there, we went 3-7, and then we went 9-2, and then we went 14-1 and 13-2, and lost to a Phoebus team in the state championship game with Taj Boyd at the quarterback, and they had like 22 Daquan Romero and Davenport kid. They had like 22 Division I players, Division college football scholarship football players on that team, and Bill D was their head coach. He was a Virginia legend, but all that success is contributed to a great leader as a head coach who has a vision, who can get everybody on the same page. And the off season, man, and Coach Mills says it, and that's where I got it from. And I was a strength coach for him. After 2 years, he kind of passed to me. He was never not involved. I did all the paperwork and the programming, and I said, "Hey, is this good?" Yes. And I was there every day, and he was there every day. But the lifeblood of their football program is their off season. And I mean, they went 10-2 this year. Like Coach Mills.
That's what we already mentioned too. Is you win in the off season. It's bottom line, whether kids like it or not. You win in the weight room weeks, prior off season, right as week 10 ends, all the weeks in between week 10 and week 1 the following year. That's when those football games are won. And I truly believe
being there and through that transition, because it didn't start that way, right? From a program that was 1-49,
right?
And then Coach Mills coming in, and I was there during the rebuild. I was riding shotgun, and having to have attendance policies and show these kids small victories, and similar to what we're trying to do at Lakeside, and build through the weight room and in the culture. Excuse me, in the winning. To flip a program, and I watched the not only did the culture of the kids in the football team change, the culture of that building changed.
Yes, school, everything.
Right. In 2007, we got a brand new high school. We moved across the street. And that's when things got to rolling. And then
that's when the football program wins. That motivates your basketball teams.
Yes.
I mean, it motivates an entire
and
building.
People see the buy-in, they're like, dang, these kids are working this hard and they're getting this out of it. And then the other kids that play other sports and want to compete, or the football players that play other sports, or track or basketball or wrestling, they're like, hey man, you want to be good, get in that weight room. Come on, come in here with us. And that's what we're trying to get going. And I think we got that. We have our basketball coach and our wrestling coach understand the value of that room and what it does for your kids, but also what it does for your culture. But yeah, we had a good run. State championship games and playoffs and deep runs in the playoffs and some long seasons, man. You're talking 18, 19 weeks, but worth it every penny, man. And I remember we had won the state championship game in 2013, and
I'm getting to 2013.
Okay.
And that leads me to 2013. You actually earned the Assistant Coach of the Year award in 2013. How special of an award was that to you? I know it's the kids and that type of thing, but how special was that to you?
Well, I think, it was like the Richmond Times, so it's similar to Plain Dealer. So it encompasses like a pretty big area of coaching, a lot of different divisions and stuff. So it was huge. But I guess it's just validation to investing all that time and energy into what you're doing, into your kids, into your program, and being extremely loyal to your head coach and your coaching staff and developing that team atmosphere within your staff. Like, it's all worth it, And for the coolest thing about that is we swept that at that year. We had the defensive player of the year was on our team, Rashad Goodwin. We had the offensive player of the year in Sedaris Williams, who was our running back. And then we had the coach of the year, which was Coach Mills. And then I was awesome. The assistant coach of the year. So yeah, it was pretty cool. But that season was very special for what we did offensively, numbers wise, and with the some of the talent that we had both on the offensive line and skill wise. And we play great defense.
Right.
Coach Mills is a defense first guy.
Right, and that brings me into, you had many players go on to play college football. When you go on to play college football, can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, you had all conference guys. You had several guys go on to play college. Can you talk a little bit about those guys?
Yeah, we've had, I think it's all attributed to getting those guys in the weight room in 7th and 8th grade and starting to develop them athletically, and then they commit and buy in to what the coach and staff is selling, and they see it. When we first got there, and Coach Mills will speak to it too, like nobody came to our school. It's similar to like when I got to Lakeside, like no one, there's not many coaches that ride out there to see me and see our players. Right. And then, you put the work in, and then you can produce on the field, and then the kids get the opportunity to get seen, similar to like the Petros kid that we have out there, who's going to Mercyhurst to play offensive line. We had, I think Sam was my 8th or 9th all-state offensive lineman, maybe more. I've not to sound like a jerk, but I haven't kind of lost. You stop keeping track of it after a while, but there's been a ton of them, from D1 talents that played at Ohio State to Division III kids that one of the kids I talk about all the time, Kanias Minor, right? Kanias was a program kid. He was a senior in the 2013 team. He didn't play. He was the 6th offensive lineman. He was the 5th defensive lineman. He never played, and he would practice his ass off. Right. And I remember we're sitting in there after the first playoff game, and Coach Mills, he's like, "Come in here and watch this. We're watching practice film. Kanias Minor is absolutely giving it to our first team defense, and we're giving up, we're giving up 30 yards a game rushing, and we're giving up less than 7 points, and no one can move the football on us. And this kid's just getting after our first defense." And I'm like, he's like, "Give him a chance, put him in there." Okay. I got my guys, line guys got their guys. And so we start putting them in, but we get a kid go down, and long story short, Kanias gets to start in the state championship game.
So that's cool.
And he sets the school record for knockdowns. He has 17 knockdowns in a state championship game. We win 56-14, right? Yeah. So like they come, the college guys, they come in all shapes and sizes. They come in all different levels, but the amount of work ethic and talent that those guys, and Coach Mills does a fantastic job of promoting his kids and getting them out there. So, he's going to keep rolling too. It's cool to keep watching.
And you mentioned quite a bit of guys already at Dinwiddie over your time there. Any shout outs that you maybe missed that you want to give your boys down in Virginia?
Man, I know they'll be watching. My college roommate, Archie Tortorice, is one of the best coaches I know, who's kind of taken a backseat to be more of a dad now. He's a really good football coach. David Davis. I mean, there's been a ton of them down there. I don't want to leave anybody out, So,
you better not.
Yeah. Todd Meaner, the D-line coach, and I was there, my best friend, and we taught PE together. Once I moved from ISAP into PE, Coach Coles, who's the receiver coach down there, one of the best receiver coaches I know. He played. He was a player. He graduated on the 2009 team that went 9-2, the team that kind of flipped the whole culture there. So, there's the Henderson family, like Jim Henderson's head coach at Monacan, and his brother was head coach at James River. His dad had won like 3 or 4 state championships as a defensive coordinator for Hopewell. Hopewell is where Travion Henderson played for Ohio State's freshman running back. So, and then my experience at Colonial Heights, I got to work with my brother who's on my staff now, and he's come with me. He worked with us at Dinwiddie. He was with me at Colonial Heights, and that administration and Coach Carsley, the AD at Colonial Heights, are giving me an opportunity to take my first head coaching job. So, yeah, man, I don't want to go too long, and I'm sorry if I left anybody out. And those guys down there know that I love them, and I still talk to a lot of them too. So,
and as you should. I mean, that's what the coaching world's all about, is relationships you build.
And it's cool to see the different perspective. When I went down there, people say, "Well, what was the biggest difference between Ohio and Virginia football?" And I'm like, and then I move up here and everyone's like, what? The thing that sets us apart.
So that's a good thing, because I wasn't going to ask you that. Now that's a question I should have asked in hindsight.
The play up front, up here, offensive, defensive line play, in the box play on defense. I don't know if at sometimes the level of detail and technique coaching of the big guys isn't as good as, I think that's why we had some success, a lot of success. I think that's why Dinwiddie continues to have success, because they do a really good job of coaching the dudes up front. Whereas up here, everyone's good up front, like from Lakeside to Chagrin Falls to Kirtland to Menor.
You gotta be.
You gotta be, and everybody knows that.
You get to week 10 and when the weather starts getting cold, it's
different. So I think that's the biggest difference you see. And there's athletes and depth everywhere, but I think the depth of the skilled players down there, like at Dinwiddie as a strength coach at one time, I think we had 27 kids on our team of 65. I think 27 of them ran 4.6 or faster.
Wow.
We've got maybe 8 on our team at Lakeside. So and we did a lot in the off season, which I spoke to a couple times to get that. But the amount of kids, you just got a list of kids, and it's like 4.6, 4.68, 4.65, 4.52.
I might be heading to Virginia.
There's a lot of speed down there. It was fun, man. I love my experience there. I did.
And after your first stint at Dinwiddie High School, you head to the collegiate level to coach. You got hired at the University of Troy in 2010. What made you jump to the college level? What made you want to do that?
Well, working with Coach Mills, we clinicked. I mean, I must have been to more clinics than with him. He dragged me to clinics. He'd make me speak at them. We'd go to camps. We were a member of the Tony Franklin system. So we signed up and we went 2 feet all in. And I remember the first camp, before the first 2 days there, we're in an English room in Dinwiddie, the old Dinwiddie High School. It's a junior high now. And we've got every single play on an old chalkboard with yellow chalk, green chalkboard, and it's the whole board.
Right.
And it's got every play in the Tony Franklin system on every formation. And it'd fill up this whole damn room. And we're putting on an install schedule. And I'm like, holy shit, how are we going to put all this in and be good at any of it, right? But we put it all in and you narrow it down. But through the Tony Franklin system, we did camps and we did clinics, and we would go to Troy and we do a team camp there, and we go to here and we do that. And then because we had success and Coach Mills was such a good coach that we had success on the field, that we got invited to coach in these clinics, and we get invited to speak at the Tony Franklin clinic, Coach Mills would. And then we got an opportunity to work these camps all over the country. So we'd go to Maumee High School and they'd fly us to Texas, and we'd go to one weekend I spent 4th of July weekend at Lake Tahoe playing golf.
Cool, I mean, you're playing,
right?
You're
but coaching football at Truckee
football.
High School for the head coach who grew up in Paynesville, right? And he's won like 6 state titles in California, and he's from Paynesville. He's Coach Anderson's brother or brother-in-law or something like that. And I'm like, so I got to work camps and really I had a really good offensive line crew in 2008, the first year we played for the state championship, and David Abbey and Nick Watts and Aubrey Collins and John Oakley and Ryan Tabner. I still remember them all by name, and some really hard-nosed, tough-ass kids, and I put them through it too. And Coach Mills, and Coach Mills told me my first week working for him or something. He told me, I'll never forget. He said, "If you love them, you'll be hard on them, because if you're not, they'll never get to where you think they can." And I still, I need to get that put up on a poster board or something in my room. And we went down there and we had a one-on-one deal, and there's 20 schools there, and you do one-on-one O-line play, and we were pretty good. And we knew, I knew they were going to be pretty good, but I wanted to be a little bit nasty. And Lexington Christian or Lexington Catholic from Lexington, Kentucky was there, and they brought their whole defense, and we went one-on-one with them. And one of their kids, there was they had an all-state defensive end, and my left tackle, Nick Watts, who was All-American at Shawan, Division II school in North Carolina, took it past that and lifted him off the planet and put him flat on his back.
There you go.
And then it was a goddamn fist fight. And we had coaches running in, and then from there, you work with those coaches, and John Schlarman,
Right.
who was the offensive line coach at Troy at the time, who was at Kentucky, and God love him, and God rest his soul, he just passed away of cancer about 2 years ago. A year ago, this past season, not this year, but the year before, who was another mentor of mine. He started, he'd take me, hey, we're going to get wings for lunch, come up with us. Hey, we're going to go to this. So they kind of took me aside with the O-line coaches. Yeah, absolutely.
The young coach.
Yeah, and I worked with guys, I got to work with Chase Harp, who's an offensive coordinator at the Glenn Academy down in Georgia, who hired me as O-line coach at UCO, and he became the offensive coordinator at Central Oklahoma when I left Troy. So just making those connections. So they had a GA position open up, and I had been coaching in high school for 5 years, O-line coach, strength coach, and we had some success. And I put a couple, like David Abbey, the right tackle, he ended up walking on at Troy and making the football team. The year I was there, we had sent a kid to Troy. Sam Haskins played receiver at Dinwiddie, and we had sent him there. So he called me. Schlarman called me and said, hey, Buzzy, I got a GA position I want you to think about taking. And I'm like, man, that would be awesome. So I go in and talk to Coach Mills, and I wait a couple of days because I think he's going to be pissed, right? Because, any guy, you get it, you don't want to lose your O-line guy and your strength coach. And, and I'm an extremely loyal guy. And and Coach Mills looked at me and goes, if you don't take that job, I'm going to fire your ass because you need to go. So
that's good though.
So I got it. Right, that's good. Yep. So he gave me some money and patted me on the back. He said, get the hell out of here. Gave me his blessing, and I went down there, and after working with Larry Blakeney, who's going to be a Hall of Fame, NCAA Hall of Fame head football coach. You talk about a great guy to work for, man. I mean, awesome. And Kenny Edenfield was the offensive coordinator, and Jeremy Rowell was defense coordinator at the time. Schlarman was there, and Benji Parker, who's at one of the Mississippi junior colleges and winning a bunch. The experience to work there and teach and work at tight ends and assistant O-line coach, and then also be the offensive GA. So, staying up till 4 a.m, getting the scouting report done on a Monday night and Sunday.
You're doing the work.
But then also having to do the coach, so most of the time, and back then, and I don't know what the rules are now, like most GAs don't have their own room. You're an assistant. But I worked with John and set up his drills and did the GA stuff for him. But then I ran meetings with the tight ends, and we played. We played with the tight end maybe 20% of the time, maybe probably less than that. But Donnie Crosby was the starting tight end, and we had a kid that grew up in Painesville that moved to Georgia. Jim Technip was down there. He was a transfer, and I got in there and started to love those guys. And I just coached them like linemen, so we didn't catch many passes. They down block their ass off and reach their ass off. But and then from there, after being a full-time teacher for 5 years and not going and making $5,500 a semester and having to take class, I'm like, shit, I don't know how I'm gonna pay the bills. So offensive line job opened up at University of Central Oklahoma. It's a D2 school right outside Oklahoma City in Edmond. And Chase Harp, who called me, I just talked to him on the phone the other day. He called me and he said, hey, I need a line coach. Why don't you come out here and talk to our head coach? And I went out there and he got it.
Before we get into Central Oklahoma, I wanted to ask, you coached in a bowl game while you're at Troy.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
I mean, you played a lot, Ohio University, and the Trojans went 8-5 that season. You played in the New Orleans bowl game, and Troy won that game 48-21. Can you talk a little bit about the experience just coaching in a college bowl game? That's a cool experience. No matter what,
it was cool, and like that season at Troy was awesome. So we opened up at Oklahoma State, and we finished camp, and the next thing you know, we're getting on a plane traveling to Oklahoma.
Right.
And I'm like, so we go to Oklahoma. It's 41-39. They got Brandon Whedon and Justin Blackman on that team, and it's 41-39 them, and we got the ball at 50-yard line going in to score with 2 minutes left. And I think, I don't know, maybe Dana Holgerson might have been their offensive coordinator at the time. And we give up a sack and a fumble, and they recover it, and the game's over. But we're right there. So, we played at Oklahoma State. We played at South Carolina. in front of 90,000 people, and I'm up in the box, and South Carolina takes the field, and everything starts shaking. So it was coaching. It's definitely a different world, but the bowl game was special to travel there and have practice inside the Superdome down there,
that's cool
walk through, and they give you. I mean, the cool thing about they give you get pullovers, swag bags, t-shirts. We got iPad touches, like the first year they came out with the bowl game engraved on the back, and and then like we spent time with Ohio University staff, and we just meet up for dinner or something, and Coach Blakeney was great to us, and we didn't pay for a thing while we were down there. And my roommate, who was the defensive GA, Brett Borden, who coached for a long time, Chip Lindsey was on that staff, who was the offensive coordinator at Auburn. He was at Troy. Troy moved on and hired someone else, but Chip Lindsey, I mean, like I said, I've been extremely blessed to be able to coach with and learn from some really, really good football coaches. But bowl game, it was cool, man. It's not like it's not really like anything else you've been, because and we hit on all cylinders. Like we couldn't do anything wrong. I remember me and Coach Parker, they had a hospitality room up there in New Orleans. We got halftime, me and him were digging in that shrimp, and we didn't go down because the elevator was broken for halftime, and we were up, I think it was like 35-0 or 35-7 at half. We're talking smack to Schlarman on the headset. He's like, hey, Schlar, you would hate these shrimp up here. They're terrible. And shrimp are this big, So it was fun, man. It was a cool experience.
I also wanted to ask you, you've coached at both the high school and college level. What is the biggest difference in coaching at the high school compared to the college level? Like, what would you say?
Well, you don't have to do as much nudging in college, right? Like, you don't have to coach effort. You don't have to tell kids to show up to practice.
Right.
You have to give the kids the tools they need to be successful in the classroom, and monitor their grades, and give them the resources they need to the kick in the butt. Hey, what's going on in math? Right? Why didn't you at study table? And as a GA, you got to ride around and do class checks. So you're in the golf cart and you're going to this class, you're checking guys off the list. They got to show up to breakfast every morning. You cross them off the list at breakfast. They don't go to breakfast. They got to see the strength coach. So there's a whole bunch of little stuff that goes on that you don't know. But yeah, it's you can really get into X's and O's and scheme, and really get your hands dirty with playing with different techniques and seeing what works at the college level, because you don't really have anything else to do. At high school, where you have to teach 5 classes, and then you're working with kids. Everyone at Troy and everyone at UCO were really good high school football players.
Right.
So fundamentally, for the most part, everybody that there is good.
Right.
So you don't have to spend, you work on head placement, hand placement, footsteps, footwork patterns, all that stuff, talking O-line wise. But like for the most part, they're pretty good at 6-inch zone steps, because they've been doing it for 4 years in high school. So you can really get into working schemes and downs, and at the college level, like even kids that struggle, like everybody's smart and they have football set.
Right.
So I guess that would be the biggest difference. Like it's sometimes in high school you have to tailor it down, and you can't get as complicated as we want to get as coaches, because the kids can't learn it, or just because or they don't need to learn it because it's almost too much. Where at college you can, and Coach Enfield did a really good job, and so did Schlar, keeping everything simple. Like I think that's one of the things I learned there. Like I bet you we probably only carried maybe 15 to 20 plays per week that were on the call sheet.
That's
similar to
just
like
ran out
Mike
of different
Leach.
formation. That's what I believe is get the best 5 plays and run them out of different formations. Then you got 50 plays.
Some games we went into, we didn't even have that. Like we'd go into Coach Enfield's meeting room down in the basement of the old football building there, and he had the board up with the X's and O's, and he drew up all their fronts, and he had the top 2 runs that he liked against each front, top 2 pass quick games, top 2 screens, top 2 dropbacks, and that was it. And we were, and what the cool thing about that was it was the same offense. We were Tony Franklin system, Mike Leach, air raid. So we were running mesh, we're running shell, we're running high low, we're running 4 verts, running zone, inside zone, outside zone, power read, stick. 67,
Right.
68, 69, all that stuff. So,
Okay.
and those guys out there that are they don't know what I'm talking about, right? That's how I learned it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was the numbers. Like when we first got in, 90, 91, 92, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. 98 was kind of our play, but those are all play concepts, like, 90s shallow,
Right.
91's
Right,
high low, smash route, 92 smash, 94 sail.
That's the
96.
thing. It's like everyone has their own terminology now. Like, so I know what you're talking about. There's some coaches that are like,
what the hell is he talking about? Right. So, and I talk to my brother all the time because he's been with me and he calls our plays offensively. And we'll get in the meeting room and I'm like, just run 95, but run out of this and do like this, like we used to run. And he's like, yeah. And then everyone's
Don't be the head coach.
the coaches on staff are like, what the hell's 95? Because that's not what we call it now. Y cross, we don't call it Y cross. We don't call it 95. So the coaches on my staff now, they didn't learn it the way I learned it. So.
Then after one season at Troy, you leave and get hired at the University of Central Oklahoma, like you mentioned. You get hired as the run game coordinator and offensive line coach in 2010. Your offense broke the single game rushing record with 272 yards from one player.
Mm-hmm.
As the O-line coach, that's got to feel pretty damn good.
Oh man,
can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, we weren't very good. All right, so at UCO and Tracy Holland was the head coach, and there were some really good coaches that were leaving, and P2 was there. My buddy Patterson, Coach we call him P2, Dale Patterson. His dad was head coach at the junior college there in Miami. It's not on the top of my head, but anyway, we weren't very good. UCO was on the previous coaching staff before Coach Holland took over. They had cut our scholarships in half because they were cheating. So you go into D2 where you only have 36 scholarships and you got to chop them up to 18.
Right.
So now we got a bunch of kids that we had lost on, that were there that we had to, that weren't maybe the same level. So when I got there, we had to finish the spring game with our starting tight end, who was one of our best players. I think he snapped for the Bengals for a couple of years as a long snapper.
Wow.
He had to finish the spring game at right tackle because the same five guys played offense for both teams.
Right.
Because we only had five guys after spring ball, and I had to clean some house. When I got there, the average GPA for an offensive lineman was under a 1.25, and when I left, it was almost a 2.5. So we had done that. So that year, we had started 2 junior college transfers, a sophomore, and 2 freshmen, 2 junior college transfers, and 1 kid who was there the year before.
That's kind of hard as
who's coaching O-line at Broken Arrow.
Coaching college level as hard as it is, then you get your scholarship cuts.
So, and we were close. Like we went to North Alabama, and Janoris Jenkins was there in an opening game, and we threw the ball 73 times. Like I think we might even set the record for attempts in a game.
Wow.
And we didn't throw the ball. We didn't throw it over 10 yards. It was fast screens and sticks. Yeah, it was all quick game. And we were in a dogfight with them. It was a different experience. At UCO, I'd say the culture of the program wasn't like anything I had been used to.
Right.
It was a little bit more laid back. There was a lot more that was allowed. And as an assistant coach, you come in to some place.
Especially you were at Dinwiddie, a program that built up, and then you were at Troy that won, and then you wind up
with some coaches that have a system, and we're going to do it this way.
You expected here, and then you have here, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, there was, but it took the job as a full-time job. I didn't have to teach or anything. It was like $48,000 to coach O-line. I'm like, God damn, this is a dream. All you got to do is coach O-line all day and recruit. Like, hell yeah, where do I sign up? Right.
You get to travel, you get food.
Everything. It was awesome. They gave us these 50% off cards. We go to these like 10 different restaurants, and all your food was 50% off. And it was cool. But we didn't win, and we were really young. And I think we won 2 games that year. But we had a pretty good season offensively. We were in some ball games, but just like culture wise, where we were at with the scholarships getting cut and how young we were. And there was a bunch of football coaches that played on that team, and some really good coaches now that GA'd for us, like Austin Silvoy is the wide receiver coach, offensive coordinator at pass game coordinator, Austin Pay, and Jeremy Hawkins is at Western Kentucky as a D-line coach. He was their defensive GA. And Marquise Williams is in the NFL now. He was our special teams guy. And Coach Petrino was our defensive coordinator, is at like Colorado Mines, or he's a head coach at Division II. And like everybody that was, Coach Patterson's a high school coach. Everyone's still in the game, you know. And but that's the cool thing is that the GAs that like their first year coaching was with us. They've been really successful. I'm proud to see those guys be successful in the college level.
Then you leave Central Oklahoma after the 1 year, and you get hired at Colonial Heights as the head high school football coach. Colonial Heights is in Virginia. You get hired in 2017 there. Up until that point, this was your first head coaching job.
Yeah.
What made you apply for the head coaching vacancy at Colonial Heights? I asked this because the football program was struggling big time. I mean, they were 10-61 over 7 seasons before you get hired. What intrigued you about taking that job?
Well, when I was at Dinwiddie, so UCO, I ended up going back to Dinwiddie and then took the job at Colonial Heights. We lost in the state championship game in 16 with a very talented football team. I was, for a couple of years, I've been thinking about being a head coach. Some of my buddies that I coached with at Dinwiddie had moved on and been very successful. And I guess as a coach and a competitor, you always want to, like, you want to do it. Like, you want to see if you can, not see if you can do it, but you're like, I can do that.
Like, it's like what Butchko said. You want to see yourself lead a program. Yeah. Just sitting back and kind of seeing how things are done.
Absolutely. And
next step.
My position at Dinwiddie, assistant head coach and strength coach and co-offensive coordinator and O-line, like, I had a huge role there. And I'm like, well, I'm, aside from the day-to-day head coaching things, I'm like, well, I'm doing everything anyway. Well, that's what you think until you have to do it, right? And then head coaching is like a totally different world. So, and Coach Mills, I was in on a lot of discipline stuff, and he was grooming me for it, right? And I don't know if Colonial Heights was the perfect job, but they were in our conference. And the year before, in 2016, like, we beat them 77-0, like 77-7. But they had some kids, and I lived in Colonial Heights. I bought a house in Colonial Heights, and I could see that their youth program was really good. They didn't have a middle school program because they were playing in the youth, and then they were leaving Colonial Heights to go play at Matoka or some other schools in the area. So I'm like, I think if we can get in here and we can build this up and we can bridge the youth program to the high school program and start a junior, like, we played the first JV football game at Colonial Heights in like 7 years. They didn't have a JV team.
Wow.
So,
and that stinks not having a JV or freshman team, because they don't get those game reps. They're not playing against kids their same age, and then you get thrown right into varsity.
And then and you start to lose the fire. That happened to us.
You're a 13, 14-year-old kid playing against 18, 19-year-olds. Right. That's a scary
huge difference, right? And we had to go through that when I first got to Lakeside. Like, we didn't have a JV. We played one JV game my first year here. We started freshman. We total. You take this senior class out that just graduated, those 10 guys, we've only had 12, 13 seniors in the previous 3 years added together. Not each year, no, 13 total, like 18, 19, 20, add them all together. It's only 13 guys. But we took over Colonial Heights. We started talking, Coach Krupp and his dad came. His dad played at UVA, and Kyle Krupp, who was a good friend of mine, he was there. And his dad, I talked his dad out of retirement. He was still teaching in the building. Great football guy. Krupp was a all-conference defensive lineman. He played at Colonial Heights. They're Colonial Heights guys now. Mac is now the head baseball coach at Dinwiddie. He pitched at Radford, like he was a Division I baseball player. So we put together a staff and we put in a system, and it was all about, like, they didn't lift weights. Right. They didn't lift weights. I'm like, I go on my third interview there, and I asked the AD, Coach Carsley, who's a great guy, and I was like, can you take me to the football field house? And we go in this, so the stadium's off site, right? So it's not at the high school. It's like 2 miles down the road. And he opens it up. He's like, yeah, man, check it out. This is what we got. And it's like, there's weights on the floor. There's bars on the floor. There's squat rack. They have two, I believe two squat racks that get so much dust on them, and they have 5 different benches in there, and the benches all have weight on them. But and he's like, yeah, this is it. He's like shaking his head. Oh, this is your problem. And he looked at me. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, so you can't win. I said, so the school board and the superintendent approved like a brand new $85,000 weight room, and Dynamic Fitness came in and they outfitted the whole thing. We put turf in it. We took the Dinwiddie approach and with the off season stuff, and I brought that there. Well, we had kids showing up, and we had gone from like a roster of 26 kids to like 48 my first year. We won the first 3 games. And at Colonial Heights, the thing about that, those numbers are a little misleading. They play if you took like Cardinal and put them in the WRC, that's what they have to play. So they're a very small 4 or 5A school or a 3A school there, and they're almost a 2A school, and they have to play Dinwiddie and Matoka and Thomasdale and all these bigger schools. Yeah,
so, like, I mean, it's almost you're walking into a bad situation.
Yes, and we knew that, and we knew the schedule was going to be tough, but we also knew with the computer points, the way things went, that like we went 3-7, and we were the 9th ranked team, or we were. Yeah, I think they went in 8 that year. I think we were 9, and we almost got in the playoffs at 3-7.
That's the thing. You win the right games, you can find
right. So we eke out another win there, and we would have got in, and man, that was fun. Like to do it my first year.
Yeah.
And I spoke with one of my buddies down there. Sometimes you get in here and you take a job like at Lakeside, and you put so much pressure on yourself and your staff that it almost becomes.
Trust me, I'm great.
Yeah.
You start turning great.
I'm like,
start
I gotta
wearing
go back, having fun at practice and enjoying it. Like sometimes it becomes such a grind because you want to be successful and you're trying to get your kids to want it too, that it becomes like, you get tired of it.
And coaching now is a much different world than
even 5 years ago.
You know what I mean? It's like me as a kid, we wanted to play football. We were outside in the front yard. We're playing tackle football on the street on dead end streets, But these kids they're not playing football anymore. And it's just a different.
We go over to East Overlook over there and play tackle football, and you get tackled into the cars, and you're playing in the street.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's different. It's definitely different. But yeah, Colonial Heights was a great experience. Great administration. Great superintendent leadership. I still think you could be successful there. I think they have which is crazy. So I took that job and I had no intentions of leaving. And then this opened up and then it worked out.
That's my next point.
I left and then they hired a guy who was a friend of mine, Tiller. Coach Tiller took over for 2 years and then he got out of football, and then they gave it to Krupp, who was my defensive coordinator, and then Krupp got out of football. Right. Well, he moved. He got married and ended up moving away. And he's a Colonial Heights guy. So now they're on their 4th head coach in 5 seasons, and they're trying to get some stability there. And I think if they get that, they could be successful.
I think that's with any program. You build up from the bottom up. I think any program wins some games and be successful. So getting into Ashtabula Lakeside now. I mean, this is the.
How we doing on time, man?
We're should have hammered that coffee, as long as you want.
People get bored and turn us off.
But yeah, no, it's funny is a lot of your players have actually followed the coach's approach on Twitter this week because you retweeting it, and so I'm like getting all these Lakeside players.
Yeah.
But get in Ashtabula Lakeside, you come back home to Ohio. You get hired at Lakeside in January of 2018 after Frank Hall resigned. Frank Hall is actually now at Chardon. Can you talk a little bit about how the interview process went at Lakeside? Because were you living in Virginia when you applied? Like, were you doing Zoom meetings? How'd that work out?
It was nuts. So I wasn't going to apply for it. Right. And part of, I said earlier, I'm a loyal guy. Like I've only applied for, like 3 head coaching jobs, 4 head coaching jobs and I got 2 of them, right? So like I've always been pretty committed to where I'm at. But it came open. I wasn't going to apply, and I'm like, all right, I'll send it. It was late. Like I missed the deadline.
Right.
I sent it directly to Mike Cochran, who's the football athletic director at Canfield now. And he calls me, and he was the strength coach for Tressel at Ohio State.
Oh, wow.
And he played for Tressel at Youngstown State. So he's an Ohio Tressel guy.
That's a guy you want to send your resume to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I didn't know that at the time. So I send it to him and I get a phone call like that night. And it's a 440. It's a 440. I'm like, okay. I answer it and we talk. And he's like, well, why don't you come up here and interview? All right, it's right around Thanksgiving. So unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that they already had a round or two of interviews.
Right.
Like I just threw my hat in the ring. I knew it was late. I sent an email. I said, here's my cover letter. I know this is late. I'm out of state, blah, blah, blah. So there was a whole bunch of other stuff after I got the job that I've been made privy to that was going on with some guys that worked on staff that I don't know if it was handled the right way by the people that hired me or whatever, but I didn't have anything to do with any of that. Right. So
that's above your pay.
Right. Yeah. I didn't even know. I'm 450 miles away in
Right.
Virginia, and it's still warm in February,
Yeah.
in November. So I ride up over Thanksgiving break and I sit down and interview and I go into the media center and there's 8 guys in there and I sit down and they start asking questions and blah, blah, blah. And I have my whole presentation put together and everything. And I said, you know what? I said, the hell with it. I'm just going to go for it. I said, I took off my suit coat. I undid my tie and I'm like, all right, boom, boom, boom. This is how we fix it. And and we went through the interview process and Cochran was impressed and he walked me out and my mom lives in Menor on the Lake, Menor Headlands. And I was staying with her. Drove back to my Headlands. I got in the call. I didn't hear anything. I'm interviewed on a Saturday morning, like 9 a.m. I'm riding back on a Monday, back down to Virginia. And it was the weekend before Thanksgiving. And he calls me. I'm somewhere in PA and he offers me the job. Right. So I'm like,
you turn that car.
I'm
right
like,
back
yeah,
around.
no. I'm like, all right, well, I'm on the way home. Let me give me 2 days. Let me weigh the options here and can I get back to you? He said, yeah, take your time, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't get officially offered the position until like the February board meeting.
Right.
And I'm talking to him. Yeah. So I'm talking to him and he's like, hey, and they're interviewing and they're going through all this other turmoil that I didn't know what was going on. And their superintendent's telling other people that they're getting the job and their AD's telling people he's going to quit if I don't get the job. And it's I didn't know any of it. And I got this group of people at my booster club and the people involved in Alec Raffa and Petros's dad and Kevin Sidbeck, who's now my father-in-law. They were out there pounding the pavement like, how can you not hire this guy? Look at his resume. Look what he's done. Look where he's been. He's a local guy, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I think it took a little bit of time for them to sell it to who was there. And, I got the phone call. I was February board meeting and they called me from the board meeting. Dr. Potts, who's now our superintendent, was in the board office, but he wasn't superintendent at the time.
Right.
And Cochran, and we worked out the deal and I ended up moving here like March the 12th was my first workout. And it was crazy. Like I didn't know anything about it aside from, I called people, I called Kakura, I sent emails, no one give me any information. I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. Maybe maybe it isn't. And I could find out 12 and 68 and the 8 years before I got there. And, you'd see their film and they got some dudes that can flash and pan and you look at their roster numbers and blah, blah. So I get there and we got first day of workouts. I'm like, we're having workouts. AD's like, yeah, go for it. Principal Don Rapus is now a board member. Great guy. He's like, yeah, coach, we got to get it going. But so we show up March 12th. I'm like, all right, let's get to work, man. We got 88 kids. 4 track kids are in the weight room. I can't get in there. Girls basketball's in the gym. Can't get in there. Boys basketball's in the small gym. Can't get. So I got 88 kids getting ready for first day. I'm all fired up. I'm by myself. I don't have anybody on staff. And we're clearing out tables in the cafeteria.
Love it.
And then the custodians come over and tell me I can't do it.
What are you
and
doing?
I'm like, are you? Yeah, I started going, sometimes I'm a little reactionary. I'm like, I would freaking go home then.
Yeah,
what I mean?
Every coach has been in that situation, like sneaking, putting up tables.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell you want me to do? Like, I'm trying to come down here and change this. It starts right now. Like, it's like you offered me the job the weekend before Thanksgiving. Now it's March the 12th. I'm finally here. Right. It's 4 months.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get to work. And now you're telling me I can't. So we had some stuff we had to work out with weight room schedules and stuff like that. But yeah, it was, I remember I packed up the car, the truck and the trailer, and I moved up and I put stuff in my mom's garage. Put my house up for sale down there. I sold my house in like 6 days.
Well,
So then I had to go
that's a
back
plus.
down. So I made like 4 trips from Virginia to Ohio and back, in between March and May.
Wow.
So, but
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it all worked out, man.
Then in one of the articles I read, you said that it was a no-brainer taking that job. Was that because you were coming back to Ohio, kind of family was here? Is that?
Yeah, that like the opportunity to coach like high school football in the state of Ohio, like to me, being an Ohio kid and playing at Mount Union right outside of Canton,
Right.
and the Hall of Fame is right there. It's like the Mecca, right? Like high school football in Ohio. And not to discredit what it is in
Sure.
Virginia and the experience, and it's good football, but like being an Ohio guy, the opportunity to coach Division II in Ohio, you know, like one of the guys I mentioned earlier, I won't mention his name now, that I played with at Mount Union. My first clinic I went to was the Ohio High School Football Coach Association in Columbus, and he's like, well, and he don't know me from Adam. I haven't seen him in 15 years since we were at Mount Union. Whoa, how'd you swing a D2 job already? Oh, I hope you don't fall on your face. I'm like, what a dick, you know what I mean? Like, pardon me, I just wanted. I'm like, oh, thanks, bud. I appreciate the confidence, right? And he's a coach at a Division IV, Division III school, and they're successful. But like, yeah, thanks for, you know, like, yeah, he's like, how'd you backdoor that one? I'm like, oh, I didn't, man. Like, I worked my balls off for this opportunity, right? So. Yeah, just the opportunity to move back home and coach in Ohio and be a head coach, like Division II. I try to get.
And there's just such good football.
Yeah,
it really is. Like everywhere
great.
You go, I mean, every game, no matter if you're 1-19 playing your Week 10, it doesn't matter because you know you're getting quality opponent no matter what level you're at. Division I through 7 in Ohio.
And I just talked to the kids today in the weight room, and during workouts, we were doing some running in a small gym, and I'm like you guys, like we play Division II football in Ohio. Like, and our weight room numbers aren't great right now. I'm trying to get the numbers up and get some kids in there and get them understanding the importance of it. You know, it's like beating your head against the wall after 5 years, but still getting them in there. But, you know, we got 12, 15 kids in the gym today, and we got kids out with sick and kids on the basketball and 5 kids wrestling. So we got kids all over the place. And where we're at, we have to share. But I'm like you're in Division II in Ohio. Like, this is some of the best football
as you said,
in the country. It's some of the Division I, Division II in Ohio. Like, I'm like Division II, Region 5 with Hoban and Massillon and Hudson. Like Hudson stacked, Nordonia. Riverside, Coach Boers. I mean, dude, this is some of the best football in the country, just top to bottom. So like, our kids don't understand that.
Just the coaches in this. I mean,
oh god dang, you don't get a week off, even in the CVC with Perry and Chagrin Falls and Edgewood and those schools on our schedule. You don't get a week off. St. Joe's, you know, you're playing against good players and good coaches each and every week, man. It's it was a no-brainer to move back home and have the challenge to do it. I'm excited about it. I'll tell you, I love being at Ashtabula. I love working at Lakeside. I love our kids. I love our support system. I love, much as people talk smack about it and say, and people out here in Lake County and Colorado, like, Ashtabula is got a lot to offer, and with our facilities.
I was just about to say your facilities are.
Our facilities.
When you drive up, you feel like you're on a college campus.
Yeah, it's beautiful. With our facilities and what we're trying to do with building our coaching staff in our youth program and our middle school program and the quality of coaches we have, like, if you live in Ashtabula and it's open enrollment, you send your kid to another school, you're like, it's for, and he's an athlete. It's like you kind of like no one can offer a kid the experience that we can and the facilities that we can, especially with the level of coaching that we have on coach. It's not no disrespect to the other guys. Coach Hannah's a great coach. Coach Cooper's a great coach. Coach Sorber's a good
taking
coach.
Those jabs,
I know, but I'm just saying, like, it's very nice. I don't mean to take jab, but like, it's like we have. Those schools can't offer what we can. So, it's exciting.
Yeah, and you've taken over struggling programs in the past. We talked about the Colonial Heights. Before getting to Lakeside, the Dragon football program was 12-68 since 2010, averaging a little over 1 win per season. When you got to Lakeside, what needed to change?
I had to narrow it down to one.
No,
it's a mindset, right? Like, I think so some things happen, and being there now for almost 5 years, it'll be 5 years in March. you get to see how you can kind of look at where we're at and hear the stories and understand where they came from to understand where you're at. Like when they consolidated the two schools, I mean, that's like if Willoughby South and East Lake North combined,
Right.
Harbor and Ashtabula,
which I think is going to happen.
Yeah, it might eventually, right?
Happen.
But they were bitter rivals, right? Yeah. And Lakeside was 99, 2000, right? So, and they didn't take any of the colors from either school. It was like a clean break and a fresh start. Well, I don't know if that rubbed everybody in the county the right way. Right. Some of the alumni. So like when we get these Harbor grads and we get these Beulah grads, well, we don't have any, and they're kids, right? So we don't have any, or St. John's, right, which is the Catholic private school out there. We don't have any players yet. They're starting to come up that whose dads or moms played sports.
Wasn't alumni
at Lakeside, right? Yeah. So Versailles, who my father-in-law, Kevin Sidbeck, had an experience at a state championship game where, long story short, a middle school football coach for Versailles 2 years ago started CPR and resuscitated him as he had a heart attack at the state championship game. Story. So he's a middle school coach there. He told us, because we went down to state championship games this year, he told us that of like the 68 kids that were on Versailles' team, the team that beat Kirtland, like 44 of them had either one parent had graduated with a varsity letter from Versailles. Yep. So there was that pride and that, like, this is what we do. Right. Hey, you have a tradition to carry on here. Yep. That's passed down from their parents to their kids. We're just starting to get that. Not to say that Beulah and Harbor were different, right? But like, there's not that Lakeside, right? Like this is the Beulah way, this is the Harbor way, right? We still had that dissension a little bit where we're trying to build the Lakeside way, and we're getting there, you know. But the number one thing I had to fix there was like, so the first thing I did after we had that, it was the day of that first workout I told you about. I had a booster club meeting. So we get in the booster club, and there's like 4 or 5 women that are the booster club president, and they're all great people. And I'm like, okay, I'm Buzz, Coach Edwards, you know, this is what we're going to do. I didn't get in the background on it and didn't spend any time wasting. I said, all right, this is what we're going to do. Okay, this is the plan. I want to hear from you guys. Why can't anybody be successful here? Right? No one's been successful since Jay Corlew, who's as an assistant at Geneva now, was there to consolidate the schools. And they were the biggest school, like, you know, they were Division I when they started, and they're playing, you know, Division IV, Division III teams, right? So like, why can't anybody win here? And it's not just a football question. Like there's a lot of teams that haven't been successful there in the past. And it goes around the table. And what I hear is like, there's no team. These kids get to do this, but they don't have to do this. These kids don't show up and they get to play. These kids don't show up to anything and they get to play over my kid who shows up to everything. These kids do this. This kid doesn't, like, this kid gets bad grades, but they still want to play. So it
sounds like there's just zero accountability.
Yeah, and that's not to say what the coaching staff was doing. There was more so like they were accusing coaches of special treatment of other kids, right? And individualism, right? And certain kids were allowed to do certain things and other kids weren't. Right. So I said, well, this is how we fix it. This is our off-season program. It's incentive-based. You get the more you show up, the more you get out of. The more you show up, the more you get for free. It's going to, you know, kids have to be there. It's pretty much mandatory. Like you want to lift weights, right? And be in good graces with the coaching staff. You want to play, you better be here as much as you can, right? Well, my kid can't come. He's got AAU basketball. Okay, I don't care about it. Well, my kid can't come because he plays baseball. Well, my kid can't do this because he can't do that. So like I just sat there and listened to 5 parents tell me why we couldn't be successful with a bunch of excuses of why kids were all treated differently. And I said, well, this is what everyone's going to do. Right. They said, no, we can't do that because my kid can't do that. And I'm like, and I said, well, yeah, I'm like, oh, like, so you point to me the problem and I give you the solution, and now we're making excuses of why we can't do that. Right. So, you know, getting that was the biggest thing, was to when I got to Lakeside, football players there wasn't many teachers that liked kids that on the football team. The attitudes, the talking back, Ashtabula there's some parts out there that are pretty rough. We have tough kids. I love coaching our kids. They're like me and you, right? Like there's a little bit of shit to them, right? They've been through some stuff. I got kids on my team that have been through more as a 17-year-old person than I have as a 41-year-old, right?
And that's coaching a Cardinal. Like I saw some things. So me and my girlfriend, we delivered Easter baskets, and this is the first time I get to drive around the city, like really drive around the city, and I'm like, just some of the conditions some of these kids are living in, just what they're battling with every day. It's just crazy to me.
Right.
And that's, you see it all the time.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. But like those kids still have to be accountable. Like just because you go through some things doesn't mean you get to be a jerk to other people. Right. Doesn't mean you get to not follow the rules. Doesn't mean you get to skip class or exactly. You know what I mean? So understanding that everybody marches the line. Right. Doesn't matter if and I told that in my interview. I said, "Are you?" And that's and I don't know if it was a good to ask it or not. I said, I looked the superintendent and the head principal in the eye and the athletic director. I said, "Are you going to stand behind me and have my back on social media and everything else when I tell the best player he can't play because he didn't get to the standard?" Right. And of course, everyone's like, "Yeah, we got your back." Yeah, right. And I've been fortunate enough to have some good administrators and some good ADs to back me, that have my back, and holding kids accountable to the code of conduct, holding kids accountable to the way that we do things. We have a EEAT, right? That's our kind of our mantra, our culture. We want extraordinary effort, attitude, and toughness in everything you do, right? And we try to apply that principle to because what's extraordinary, like ordinary, that's easy. Anybody, any Joe Schmo on the street can be ordinary, right? I'm just an average, ordinary Joe, right? I want extra. Like if you want to get to where we want to get to, it's got to be more than what the average person's willing to commit. And that's your effort. So try harder than anybody else. Have a great attitude, be coachable, be positive, have great body language, and be tough, be resilient. And I think some of that stuff, but to circle back, answer your question, getting rid of the individualism and understanding that this is the greatest team game in the world, and kind of the Bill Belichick, everybody's going to march the line, right? And everyone's going to have to, and if you do it, right, then you the hardest thing is like trying to create a exclusive yet inclusive culture. So we want everybody to be able to do it. Right. And we want you. I want 90 kids on the team. I do. But those 90 kids got to get to this level before they get the reward of getting the opportunity to play and be a part of what we're doing. So
absolutely. Now, over your coaching career, this is what we'll kind of end with before I get to the final finish. Over your coaching career, you've always been involved in the strength and conditioning side of football. You were the strength and conditioning coach just about everywhere you've been, just about. At the two schools you've been to, you've got a brand new weight room, at Lakeside and Colonial Heights. The weight room is definitely a priority of yours. How important is the weight room for high school athletes? And that's just a general question, not just Lakeside, just for high school athletes in general.
Number one thing it does is it prevents injury, man. And that the safety aspect of it is number one, neck strength. Like we do neck every week. We don't have fancy neck machines. We do manual neck. We do these different neck exercises, prevent concussions. Sure. The lifting and the single joint exercise we do to prevent, non-contact injuries with the lower extremities and the shoulders and the elbows and stuff like that. But what it does for your culture of your school, the confidence of your kids. I've seen the weight room change people, young men, including myself, into being short, pudgy, little try-hard kids that would probably never amount to anything, to being a pretty damn good football player because they liked working hard and they liked being in the weight room. And I'll be honest, the only reason why I was any good at North, I wasn't and I wasn't an all-state player or anything. I was a solid high school offensive lineman for an average football team, but I was extremely strong. I had a 375-pound bench, squatted 450. Coach Toth used to make us do the 300-pound trap bar deadlift. I remember, I think I did it 61 times. And Nick Dunlap got up there and did it 65. And then we had Stosh get up, who could hold the damn thing longer, really, right? But there's the only reason why I was any good, and the game became. I tried hard. My dad who passed away when I was 20 years old. He had said, there's two things he always would say to me: hit and hustle, whether it was baseball, softball, football. You had to hit people and you had to hustle.
Right.
That's it, because I wasn't going to beat anybody with talent, right? And and he would say, work hard, do good. Work hard, do good. So that's kind
great
of
advice,
two
because,
things that,
especially come from your dad. That's always good advice, because a lot of people growing up now as single home families growing up, and just to get those words of encouragement, and that's always a good feeling, especially from your dad.
right? Yeah, and those have always stuck with me. So like to build through the weight room and to watch myself improve as a player, and I've seen a million kids, like the Petros kid that we had this year that's going to sign a scholarship to go to Mercyhurst. Like he is one of the strongest high school football players I've ever seen, and the game was easy for him this year. Right? And obviously he didn't. Offensive line, you're not going to win every snap, right? But everything he's got is, he's a 315-pound power cleaner. He's a 500-plus squatter. He's a 300-pound bench. He'll be probably bench 400 before he graduates high school, and he's just manhandling kids out there. But like what it gives you with your confidence, what it does for number one, injury prevention, confidence, and then the game's easy when, like, especially for the guys up front, the game becomes easy when you're stronger and you can hit people.
Yeah.
It's all about easy to hit people when you're the hammer, not the nail, right?
Yeah. As we near the end of the show, Coach Edwards, you'll be the fifth coach to sign my coach's wall right behind you.
Sweet, man.
So as coaches,
right
wherever you want to over there. Maybe right next to Butch Canoe.
Yeah, where's he at?
I think he's
real big.
He's that big one up there.
Yeah, of course he is. I'll go right here.
As coaches sign, I just want to thank all of our listeners and viewers. You guys have been super great. You can watch or listen to our podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Anchor, Spotify, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. To end the show, I always ask Coach, who is Coach Buzz Edwards? For the listeners and viewers who might not know who you are, who's Coach Buzz Edwards?
Who is Buzz Edwards, man? I've never,
It's a tough one.
Yeah, you never really. Damn, shucks. I don't know. I had a little Virginia come out of shucks. I don't know, man. I'm just when it comes down to it, I'm just like a blue collar, hardworking dude from East Lake.
Ranger.
I'm pretty down to earth. I've been lucky and blessed to have some very strong leaders and men in my life. We're gonna do things the right way. I pride myself on doing stuff the right way, and I love to compete. I love to prepare, and I love to win, man. And I don't think that's ever gonna be out of me. My dad was a welder. My mom worked in the mailroom. We spent a lot of time at the community center playing basketball and just competing and doing that. And when it comes down to it, I'm just really, and I don't want to sound too sappy, I'm just a dude that cares about kids, and their development and their success in the future as men, right? If I didn't have the people that I had in my life as a teenager, my dad and Doc Floyd and Tommy Keidel's father, who just passed away, and Coach Toth and Coach Tominack and Coach Montgomery and Coach Karras and those guys to look up to, especially after my dad passed away. Like, I don't know where I'd be, and I think, a lot of people think about Lakeside and they see about the negative things of being out there. I get to be that for a lot of our kids,
right.
And which a lot of our kids don't get that, and whether it's because they don't have a grandfather or father or even a mother or a strong figure in their life. So I get the opportunity to do that for our kids every single day, and it means a lot to me. Like, I don't take myself too seriously. I like to goof around and have a good time and stuff, but I'm passionate about being a football coach and being a figure in these kids' life, and that's it, man.
No, that's a great answer. Well, Coach, I thank you again for being
Thanks,
here.
man.
I appreciate
It
your
was
time. Tune in next week as I sit down with Hall of Fame coach and former Menor head football coach Steve Trevisano. I'm excited to get in with a Hall of Fame coach, and thanks again to our listeners, and we'll see you next week.
Welcome to the Coach's Approach, a podcast where we sit down with high school coaches and get the cold, hard facts about the high school coaching world. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk X's and O's. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is the Coach's Approach, where we talk the X's and O's. Win the day or dominate the day. The choice is yours.